The dust in Diepsloot tasted like despair. For Simon, it was the only taste he knew. It coated his tongue, mixed with the chemical burn of cheap glue from the bottle he kept tucked in the torn pocket of his jacket. The township, a sprawling mosaic of tin shacks and hope deferred, was his entire world, and in that world, he was a ghost. At 17, his life was a narrowing tunnel. The morning scramble for a piece, the few rand earned, the frantic search for the next hit, and the blessed, blurry nothingness that followed. His mother's eyes, once bright with the same fire that had named him Simon Gift, were now wells of a sorrow so deep he couldn't look into them. He was a thief in his own home, selling the paraffin heater for a fix. The memory of his younger sister, Lindy, shivering in the winter cold. A shame he drowned in more chemicals. The change didn't come with a clap of thunder or a dramatic intervention. It came on a Tuesday, with a sour smell of vomit. He'd collapsed near the communal taps, his body rejecting the poison he'd just paid for. Through a bleary, spinning vision, he saw a pair of small, scuffed school shoes stop in front of him. It was Lindy. She didn't cry or scream. She just looked at him. Her expression, not of anger, but of a profound, weary disappointment that was far worse. "Simon," she said, her voice quiet but clear over the distant shouts and barking dogs. "We did a poem at school today. It was about a seed. Teacher said, even a seed in the dust can grow if it finds water." She turned and walked away, her small frame swallowed by the dusty path leading to their shack. Her words, simple and unadorned, cut through the fog in his brain with the precision of a surgeon's knife. A seed in the dust. That's all he was. Not a rebel, not a victim of the system, not a tough guy. Just a dying seed in the dust of Diepsloot. That night, the emptiness inside him was a physical pain, a screaming void that the glue could no longer silence. He thought of his father, a face blurred by time, who had left for the mines of Johannesburg and never returned. He was becoming a rumor in his own home, a story people would tell with a shake of the head. "Ha, Simon!" Such a waste. The next morning, raw and shaking, his every nerve ending screaming for relief, he did something he hadn't done in years. He walked past the shebeen, past his usual dealers lurking by the spaza shop, and kept walking. His feet, heavy as concrete, carried him towards the community center, a dilapidated building with a rusted roof. He'd heard whispers. A place with no judgment. He stood outside the chipped green door for an hour, wrestling with the animal inside him, begging to run back to the familiar numbness. Finally, shame overpowered pride. He pushed the door open. The air inside smelled of weak coffee and sweat, but it was clean. A man named Bongani, whose arms were a roadmap of faded tattoos and scars from a past life, looked up from a stack of papers. He didn't smile with pity. He just nodded, as if he'd been expecting him. "The first step is the heaviest," Bongani said. "Sit down." The journey was agony. Detoxing in a shack with the temptations of the township just a breath away was a special kind of hell. There were days Simon thought he would die from the pain, the cramps, the terrifying clarity of sobriety. Bongani never left his side, forcing water down his throat, talking to him through the worst of the night terrors, his voice a steady anchor in the storm. When the physical need began to fade, the harder work began. The guilt was a weight threatening to crush him. He had to face his mother, to utter the words, "I'm sorry," and see the cautious, fragile hope begin to flicker in her eyes. He had to walk through the streets and face the jeers of his old companions who saw his sobriety as a betrayal. Bongani gave him a purpose. "Your hands, Simon," he said one day, handing him a hammer. The community center's roof was leaking. "They can destroy, or they can build. You choose." Simon chose to build. He found a fierce focus in manual labor, in the simple, honest ache of muscles used for creation instead of destruction. He helped Bongani fix the roof, then build a small vegetable garden out back, planting seeds in the dry, stubborn earth. Word spread. The glue boy was fixing things. Slowly, tentatively. Others began to drift towards the green door. A young girl hooked on Niobe, a man broken by cheap alcohol. Simon didn't preach. He just worked alongside them, handing them tools, his silent presence a testament to the possibility of change. One afternoon, a year later, Simon was teaching a group of boys how to plant spinach seeds. His hands, once perpetually trembling, were now steady and sure. He looked up and saw Lindy watching from the doorway, her schoolbooks clutched to her chest. She walked over to the garden, looked at the neat rows of green sprouts pushing through the dusty soil, and then at her brother. A full, radiant smile spread across her face, the first he had seen in years. It was a sun rising after a long, frozen night. He wasn't a ghost anymore. He was Simon, the gardener, the fixer, the brother. The seed, once left for dead in the dust, had found its water. And in the tough, unforgiving soil of Diepsloot, he was finally beginning to grow. The end.